Building wealth isn't just about personal gain, it's about empowering yourself and your community. This is Wealthy AF, your ultimate guide to understand what it truly means to be wealthy AF. And guys, today I have a very special guest, is Senator Marty Flynn from the state of Pennsylvania. And before venturing into the realm of politics, Marty's journey began in the gritty world of professional boxing. Transitioning seamlessly from the world of sports to the realm of politics, Marty carved his path as a state rep before ascending to his current position as state senator. Beyond the confines of the ring and political arena, Marty Flynn's journey is a testament to the triumph of the human spirit. Senator, welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you having here.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to start first and foremost, how does one go from a regular guy that's just in the ring, a boxer that wants to win in that? How did you transform yourself, reinvent yourself, I guess is the question, from a boxer to going to serve your community? How did you do that?
I don't think it was reinvent myself, kind of. I just took what worked as a professional boxer into the political system by running, which, you know what I mean? Anybody can run for pretty much anything by filling out the proper paperwork, getting the signatures, that kind of thing. And, you know, I used to own a bar back in, I think it was like from 02 to like 09.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time period, people used to say, you know this one, you know that one, you should run for this, you should run for that. And it was always, you know, whatever. But I had a liquor license at the premise, and every so often it would expire. Okay. And you know, you have it up on the wall, you think, you know, you're going to remember that date, but every once in a while you forget to, you forget to renew it. Mm-hmm. And what you have to do is you have to call your state rep or your state senator to get it renewed if they can help expedite it, you know, make sure your payments are up to snuff with the Department of Revenue and things like that. And I called the state representative at the time. And people in the past always like, you should run for state rep. And I'd always shake it off. And this guy was never receptive to me, never called me back, never. So that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for the current state rep. And I was like, you know, that's messed up. Like, I could do this job, you know. So then I talked to my dad about it. People approached me about running for the position. And my dad looked at the numbers and said, you in your neighborhood is like, our neighborhood is like 40% of the district. It's like, you in your neighborhood big, it's going to be hard to beat you. And the guy wasn't from where we were from, so worked out. I won by 241 votes, I think it was, first time. So
and then you went from state rep to, how was that journey? How do you go from state rep then to senator? I know Mario Scavello is someone I know in my district that took the same journey.
Yeah, well, it's kind of different because then at that point it's a political fight to get on the ballot. Like, you know, it's not, you're going out to get people to sign signature and then you're on the ballot. It's, you have to get your party, because the current Senator John Blake, he resigned. So by him resigning, it forced a special election. So when you have a special election, what happens is the parties put two people on the ballot. The Republican Party puts someone on the ballot. The Democrat puts someone on the ballot. And then if there's third parties, they can, that had, I think it's like 3% in the previous 3 elections, they can put someone on the ballot. So I think there was a Green Party candidate, a Republican candidate, and the Democrats put me on the ballot. But that was an inter-party fight to get onto the ballot as a Democrat. I had won that. I think it was like 300 some people on the committee you had to get to vote for you. So
got it.
On the ballot, and then won the special election. But yeah, it was there was a lot of we'll say skirmishes to get there.
Hey, I told you that the Monroe County's Democratic home office is across the way from my office, literally back-to-back doors across the street from each other, across the hallway. And trust me, yeah. I know all of the politicians in my area, so I know the skirmish and the stuff that goes on.
Well, because at that point, too, in the special election, Monroe County was in my district. So the percentage of Monroe County in my district, it was like 8% or something like that. So there were like 12 or 13 votes I had to get in Monroe County for that special election. So they helped elect me too, the ones that voted for me, let's just say.
Beautiful. Let's get into what you're doing now. Why don't we educate our listeners as to what exactly is the job of a senator? Let's start there, and then we'll go a little bit into the world of what's happening in politics today.
Okay, so to people that aren't familiar, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Congress is basically patterned after Pennsylvania's government. So an easy way to explain it is in Pennsylvania, we have a House and a Senate. We have in the House, there's 203 members. In the Senate, there's 50 PA senators. Okay, and in the U.S. House, there's 423 or 30, something like that. And then there's 100 senators, 2 per state. But the U.S. government was actually patterned after Pennsylvania. So that's kind of a cool fact, The executive, they have the president, we have the governor, Supreme Court, PA had the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. We have, I think, 9, they have like 11 or something. But yeah, the U.S. government was patterned after Pennsylvania's. And I am one of 50 senators. The job of a senator is to pass a budget every year, to vote for a budget. And then we pass bills along with the House and pass them back and forth and then send them to the governor to be signed. So my main responsibility is legislation and, most importantly, a budget every year by June 1st. Or June 30th.
June 30th every year, you got to pass the budget.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges? Why don't you give us a little bit of the behind the scenes of what it is to be a senator? What are some of the challenges that you're faced with? And why don't we contrast it, right, with both as an entrepreneur, because you were an entrepreneur, and a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And what are some of the challenges you faced as an entrepreneur, and now in the world of politics, and as they relate similarities maybe, and how do you overcome them, and how have you overcome them? Maybe you could share a story or something like that with us.
Coming from the House, being a former state rep, I was in a deep, deep minority, being that, at times there were 82 Democrats, 200 or 120 Republicans, basically. It was crazy at one point. Now there's a Democratic majority since I've gotten at the Senate. But in the Senate, there's a Republican majority and I'm a Democrat. So I'm used to being in the minority. So some of the challenges for me are having to work across the aisle and to just see what it's like on the bottom of that ladder and everybody stepping over you. I've been there for so long that to get anything done and being efficient at getting the crumbs that they want to give, I have to work across the aisle, which is very, very hard at sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there are some people on the other side of the aisle that realize this, that sooner or later it's going to swing back the other way here. And, I'll be the one with the hammer in my hand, but, it gets challenging at times to get things done because you're not in the majority. But at the same time, there are things that are afforded to me that I can work the system with the governor. We usually have a Democratic governor. I'm very good at working the state system and helping people navigate through the state system with their issues. People call my office every day for help when they have trouble getting hold of somebody at unemployment. They have trouble getting a hold of somebody at revenue. They can't get their compensation. I'm very, very skilled and my staff especially is very skilled at getting a hold of people to get things done within the state system. And I'd say that's one of the major accomplishments I've had since I've come in as a state representative and as a senator. I carry that over. And
got it. How do you you mentioned working across the aisle? Our country right now is very polarized, very polarized. So the last 7 years, I'm going to say, or a little longer. And it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that. Democrats and Republicans knew how to work together. Last time we had unity in our country that both parties came across that I remember was after 9/11. We all came together and it was unity, and it was all one family. We were all Americans. And it's been a long time, and it's been a very long time. And we have these bickering back and forth. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate that when, give us an example of what the differences are.
Here's the problem. To be partisan for a second, Republicans don't stand for anything. They're just against everything. That's a huge issue. You know what I mean? You could be beholden to corporations all you want, but you got to stand for something. You can't just be against everything. And
give me an example. Why don't you give us an example of what that looks like from your experience? Because you're coming from a high level and you're in it, right? So we see what the media feeds to us.
Okay, so on a state level, I'll put it this way. Republicans year in and year out talk about how government should not be wasteful and how we should be run like a business and how that is the most important thing, to run it like a business, okay? But at the same time, the Republican caucuses in both the House and the Senate are against new revenue sources. So if you want to run something like a business and you want to cut waste, how do you stop revenue streams from coming in to the coffers? We have and right now, like Pennsylvania, since I've been in, we were facing fiscal cliffs. You know what I mean? $2-3 billion budget deficit. But since COVID, the federal government came in and made Pennsylvania flush with COVID. We have a $12 billion surplus. Okay. Now,
by the way, our roads suck, brother. So put that towards our roads.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But the issue I have is they won't spend any of it to fix anything. But at the same time, they won't put any new revenue streams in to make it more than $12 billion. So if you're not for anything here, what are you for? What are you getting done? You know, we have marijuana, tax it.
Yeah.
We have the games of skill. They're out there operating in every 7-Eleven, every little mini parlor on every street corner in every city in the state. Tax them. That's money that should be coming in, like for issues, for roads and bridges. Call it Operation Pothole.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this question, which you kind of answered. You said that they send for nothing, so we have revenue. They're against new revenue generating things. But the way I see it, but the way I see it is they do stand for the fact that they don't want to tax businesses more. If that's the proposed budget, if that's what's being proposed, right? You as an entrepreneur, as a bar owner, let's go entrepreneur to entrepreneur. You as a bar owner, man, we pay a lot of taxes. I mean, you're in cities like the one we were talking about earlier in Scranton, where it's harder to do business there. That the city is tough, and I know you're above that level, but we're paying a lot of money in taxes already. We're paying city, we're paying state, we're paying employment taxes.
I'll give this to you. I'll give this statistic to you. What percentage of businesses in Pennsylvania pay taxes?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna take a guess here. I'm gonna take a corporate income tax. I'm gonna say. This is just a guess. 70%. No. What is it? 30%, so half of it. So only 30% of businesses in Pennsylvania pay corporate taxes.
Yep. There's this thing called the Delaware loophole.
Okay.
Where businesses go to Delaware, they incorporate. There's one address, I believe, has 180,000 businesses in
registered
P.O. boxes that register there. And those businesses register out of Delaware, use the tax loophole of Delaware, and then operate in Pennsylvania. So they operate here, pay no corporate tax in Pennsylvania, but are stationed in Delaware.
Okay, so that's how they're doing it. But it's that number that high because the average guy, that owns a little bodega or owns a little laundromat, this is not that sophisticated. Marty, they're just not.
That's the 30% that are paying it.
The little guys.
That's the ones that are paying it, which it's sad. It's sad. It's not fair and it's not right. So I think, what is it? Like if you're wealthy, what do they call it? The Montana loophole. Do you know about the Montana loophole?
No, I don't.
Some of it's a sports car. It's Montana or Utah, one of them.
Utah.
If you buy,
it's a Utah.
You buy the luxury car, you don't pay any tax. And you could buy it in Utah and then just ship and register back. Or I think you have to register it in Utah, right?
Yeah, but that's not going to be that's not a problem for a wealthy person to register there.
No, I think it's just a loophole. It exists. It exists in Pennsylvania. There's one side that wants to fix that, and there's another side that doesn't. So that lets you know what I mean? Like, do we want things to be fair, or do we want things to be skewed? And then that goes to what side of the spectrum are you on? Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you think?
I think there's just a lot of common sense stuff on both sides that we get so bipartisan. Both parties, they get so partisan. They get so partisan. Yeah, they get partisan. Excuse me. They dig in their heels so much, and it's like, no, this is it, and it's just my opinion. There's no like, hey, we have to serve the community and not serve our party. We have to serve. So let's just come together and see how we can better serve all of us.
100% behind you, because you have to look at it from my perspective. Like, I have been in a deep minority where none of my stuff will get run just because of who I was. So now that
for the letter behind your name, basically.
That's what I'm saying. Just so now you could see it in real time. The House, since it's become Democrat, has passed 200 bills, 200 in the House of Representatives and PA. How many do you think they ran in the Senate that's Republican? 200 they passed.
Wow.
How many do you think they run?
I don't know, maybe 50? Three. Whoa, out of 200.
So that's broken government.
Yeah,
hey, maybe some things are partisan in some ways, but I guarantee you, out of those 300 or those 200 bills, I guarantee you 150 of them we both would all vote for. But just out of spite, they won't run them.
Yeah, that's just stupid, man. That's disgusting, actually, man. That's just bad. That's bad that's just like...
And here's another thing I'm going to bring up to you that perfectly will show you what has gone on. Historically, before the Tea Party came in 2010 and took over all the state legislatures and all over the countries, right? The Republicans. Yep. Historically, what percentage of bills do you think passed in Pennsylvania were passed by the minority party?
Before the Tea Party, I don't know, 50% maybe?
It was 41. Now, since then, what do you think it is now?
Probably a ridiculous low. I mean, based on the number you just gave me, like 2% or something.
It was like 4 to 6%. 4 to 6%. Which, you know what I mean? That's the 95% of the stuff we all agree on. So why not just run that stuff?
Yeah, man.
You know what it gets down to? It gets down to, well, if we can't put this up for a vote. And one thing I didn't know before I ran for office is you could come up with a bill that cures cancer. They're not going to run it. They're not going to run the bill. They're going to steal it. They're going to steal and run it with one of their people, or they're just not going to run it. And I think there should be some mechanism to force both sides' bills to be at least put up for a vote. Let's hold our elected officials accountable by their votes.
I love that. Yeah, and I have some questions around that in a moment for you, because I know how you voted in some things. We did some research, and I want to unpack some things with that for you. But before I get into that, I want to ask you, being in the inside, right? I'm a citizen. I'm just a citizen in the state of Pennsylvania. I own a lot of real estate in the state of Pennsylvania. I provide a lot of jobs in the state of PA. And I pay a lot of taxes too, brother. But I want you to do me a favor and take off your senator hat for a moment. Okay. And I want you to be the entrepreneur, or just the dad or the husband or the citizen.
You want me to put some street back on it?
I just want you to take that hat off for a minute, the senator hat, and I want you to be a regular guy now. Having been there, and I want you to look at it inside. Look at it having been on the inside in that political machine and how nasty it is. That's just nasty what's happening there. What would you propose the solution is to come back to the JFK Democrats and those days where people can work together, where a Democrat and a Republican can duke it out on the floor and then go have a beer afterwards? That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, it does, because some of my best friends are super like right Republicans that I would never vote for. You know what I mean? We have a golf caucus where we golf together and stuff. Like, some of my best friends are like the most right-wing lunatic people.
Okay.
And those are the people that I hang out with in there, which, you know, is totally opposite. But like, as an entrepreneur, if you're looking at government for government socialism, for things to help your business, like, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. Like, I'm talking on the street with you. Like, if government isn't helping you as a business owner, then that's your own ignorance. That's your fault.
Yes, sir.
Because there is a system. There are businesses that get grants, that get help, get tax advantages by being on the inside. And what people don't understand is you have your elected officials, but that's just a layer of what goes on. There's administrators all throughout that building that they're in lobbyists. Like, if you don't have a lobbyist and you're a business owner and you're not paying $6 to $10 a month to somebody out there hustling grants for you, then you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're just ignorant.
The truth of the matter is, a lot of us small business guys, we can't afford that, to have lobbyists, right, to do that for us.
And that's just the system that exists within that building. That, you know, it's insane. It's really insane.
So how would you, again, going back to you being an entrepreneur and having been inside and seeing how that machine works, how do you propose a fix to bring people together, to bring both the right and the left to the middle and work together? Look, I believe, Senator, that human beings are just human beings, not just, I've traveled a lot around the world, and I just believe in my travels, I have found that as human beings, we just want to be left alone. We want to be with our family. We want to have good meals. We want to just enjoy life and be loved by our families, and we want to be free. I think those are basic things of every human being, regardless of where you are. How can the government come along and support us?
Here's the problem in Pennsylvania. I'll tell you flat, just the way it is. You have Philadelphia. You have Pittsburgh, okay? You have Kentucky in between. So these people in these different areas, then you have Scranton, Allentown, you have some small cities, you know what I mean? McKeesport, Reading. But for the most part, you have people whose lives are drastically different.
Yes, sir.
Their everyday experiences are drastically different. And there's this one word that is never used. It's called empathy. People don't want to walk a block in that kid in North Philadelphia's shoes that doesn't have a supermarket, that eats every day at Checkers or at a bodega for their food source, that lives in terrible environment. All they care about is where they live and where I live or where another person lives. So getting to that middle ground, like something as simple as a police department, you don't think about it like that, but think about this. If you live in a rural area,
I did.
You don't pay for a police department.
Yeah.
The state police is your police.
Yes.
You don't pay for a fire department.
Volunteer
You have
fire
a volunteer
department.
fire department.
That's right.
So why would you care that Scranton needs $2 million because their police force needs this or their fire department needs this because there's 100,000 people living there, not 800. But you have the same political power on voting for things. You haven't experienced their need. So what do you care about it? And that's where these issues get very, very hard. When those people in Scranton are paying for your state police protection in their taxes, and you're getting it for free and they're not, but they don't care. You know what I mean? So these are like the type of issues that you start splitting hairs with each other over, and it gets hard. It gets hard to empathize with people on the other side, and it becomes visceral in some ways. You know what I mean?
I'm really glad that you brought that up because, as I mentioned to you before, Maureen State Rep, 187th district now. I think they split the district, and she's 187. We're friends, and we've actually had this conversation many a times in my office, in her office. And one day I was talking to her, and I said, Maureen, what are we doing about these taxes here in Monroe County? So as you know, Monroe County pays the highest share of taxes for school taxes in the whole state of Pennsylvania. It's ridiculous what we pay in taxes and for school taxes. And what's interesting is she used the same analogy that you did. She gave me the same perspective. She goes, Martin, the challenge is that when it comes to the distribution of the budget and this and that, the state, we're small, and then you got people in Philadelphia, they don't have the same issues that we have. You have people in wherever, and they don't have the same issues. Their taxes are low. So it's hard for us to fight it. It was a conversation going around that, similar to what you were just explaining.
The Supreme Court ruled that our funding system, our funding formula is not constitutional, that it's not equitable. So that leaves us to get that together. But what you're saying, like you're talking about Pocono, Scranton actually is the lowest per pupil funding for an urban school district in the entire state. Because Scranton, 40% of the property is actually owned by nonprofits that don't pay taxes. So that forces...
Really? 40% of the properties in Scranton are... Well, I own quite a bit of properties there. I'm for profit.
40% of the physical land mass is owned by nonprofits. Church, hospitals, different nonprofit
entities like that,
which is crazy because then that forces people like yourselves, the population is basically older, lower income, that forces them to carry the weight, of making up for it. But then the other problem is where that city money doesn't come in, the county taxes go up also. So it's not equitable, and there's a lot of movement to get this done. Fair funding formula. There's a task force to do that. But if they don't come up with something new, that the Supreme Court is gonna do it, and they're not gonna want that. So we're gonna have
Yeah.
to
So that that's I'm glad thank you for educating me on that. And my listeners, I got a lot of listeners in Pennsylvania. So this is good information. So what exactly, when the Supreme Court ruled on that, what does that mean for us as taxpayers in Pennsylvania? What is that? What should be the outcome, Senator, in the end, that we all get a level playing field for taxes, for the taxation system, for our real estate taxes? What's the outcome of that?
That's what the Fair Funding Commission has to come up with. But if they don't come up with it, then the judge is going to tell them. So, and I'm sure they're not going to want that to happen.
Yeah. How much time do they have to get that done?
I would say in the next year. I would say in the next year it would have to. Because state share of, say, I think it's like $4,600 per student in Scranton, but then you go to like Yardley and it's like $12,000 to $15,000 per student. So like, how is there equity in that in a public system? And then the other issue is you have charter schools now have their hands on public school money and can do whatever they want with it.
Yes, so, I saw that. I've seen that.
So they can advertise, they can run commercials on TV, and there's no accountability. You can't look at their books. So it was just basically an effort to divert money away from the public education system to go. And listen, I'm all for charter schools that are accountable. And
hold your own, though, man. My taxes shouldn't have to pay for you. And Maureen and she educated me on that, and we talked about that as well. Yeah, hold your own. You're charging these crazy fees anyway, so you should.
You're getting public school money.
You're double dipping. So I want to talk, before I go to my questions on some of these bills that you voted on. I want to ask you about something that's, I'm sure, on every Pennsylvanian's mind. Our roads are terrible, Senator. They're just horrible. They just are, man. They just are.
You know why? Do you know Pennsylvania? Listen to this. Pennsylvania has more roads and bridges than New York, New Jersey, and all of New England combined.
Holy smokes! No, I had no idea. No.
And did you also
New York, New Jersey, and New England by bridges and roads and bridges?
Yep.
Wow.
Now here's the other issue that normal people don't realize. Our temperature fluctuates.
Yeah.
It goes hot, super cold.
Mm-hmm.
Then comes the spring. Then it goes hot, super cold. It's
overnight.
Overnight.
Like it's 30 and then 60 in the morning. We wake up, it's 30 and it's 60 degrees in the afternoon.
But what people don't think about is the causes the ground to move. Mm-hmm. That's why we have such a problem and an issue. If you go to Florida, you go to southern states, they can make blacktop, okay, with glass in it, with rock, like different kinds of rock, because the ground never moves and the climate is always the same. Mm-hmm. So they can use different products to make blacktop. In Pennsylvania, that's not the case because the road is always moving, okay, and it costs billions and billions of dollars, and we spend billions of dollars a year on our roads and bridges in Pennsylvania. And the other issue is the average life expectancy of a bridge in Pennsylvania. How long do you think it is?
50 years.
Spot on.
Really?
How old do you think the average bridge is in Pennsylvania?
Based on the way they look, brother, I'm going to say 200 years.
No, 55.
55, okay.
55.
Okay.
They got for the Build Back Better, the Biden money.
The Biden, yep, the Build Back.
Transportation money, we're getting billions of dollars. So I think it was like something like $6 billion over the next 5 years that are going into our roads and bridges. But at the same time, we still need more money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which is crazy in itself that we're not going to cover all of it. But, you know, and the other issue is PennDOT gets a lot of their money from the gasoline tax. And as electric cars go up and EVs go up, there's no fee on them currently. The gas taxes the collection goes down, which becomes a huge issue because we need to find an adequate tax on the EV cars, be it like a yearly fee or something, to make up for that lost revenue that we're running into right now at PennDOT.
What impact is those EVs having on the bottom line?
It like, I think almost 20%,
Wow.
16% of the cars are starting to become EVs, I believe.
And didn't Biden pass a bill that by 2030 or something, like it was a large amount of percentage. I saw that, I read that it was a large percentage of the vehicles needed to be EV or something like that. So that's going to have a bigger impact. There was something that was being either proposed.
There's nothing forced. Yeah, maybe some proposed. There's nothing that forces EVs. It's just people are doing it because it's cheaper. You know what I mean? I have a buddy who has a Tesla. He saves $600 a month driving to work every day. So
yeah, the problem though with those cars is if you're driving from Pennsylvania to Florida, man, you can't.
You're done.
You can't. You can't.
You know where every station.
Yeah, you better plan it out, man, with MapQuest and know where you're gonna stop. Okay, right? Because you can't.
That's like flying and know where you can glide to an airport.
Yeah, man, that's the problem with those EV cars. Thank you for sharing that.
Pop up in the next 5 or so years. I know there's one down in Wilkes-Barre that's being built currently, and we'll see.
Yeah. Thank you for educating us on the roads and really giving us an understanding of why the roads are rough, and that makes total sense. Living in Pennsylvania, we know that. Like we know that we get extreme cold, right? And then extreme hot. And then right now, winter doesn't want to leave us. Like it's 30 degrees in the morning and then 65 or 60, 70 degrees in the afternoon. And then boom, it goes back down to 20 at night. And you wake up, it's like, what is going on?
So does the ground. And that's what you just never think about or realize. And then you you're like, I'm in New York, and you're like, oh, the roads are fine in New York. They're so much better. And like, think about it. Pennsylvania has more roads than New York, New Jersey, and New England combined. So just getting to all of them. It's like, you don't think of Pennsylvania having more roads than New York.
You just don't. It's hard to process that because you think, New York is New York, right? The biggest, largest city in the world, right? How can Pennsylvania have more roads and bridges than New York? You're like, but you have the data. Hey guys, thank you for listening to part 1 of my interview with Senator Marty Flynn. Tune in this Friday to listen and watch part 2. Until then, peace out.